So welcome guys. In the last video we've been able to do database notification to our users, and in this video let's just go ahead and see how we can send emails to users from your application. Okay, so to actually do this is very easy with Laravel. All you need to do is create an email class, then you send your email through those class that you've created. Okay, so let's just go ahead and see how we can actually do this in the real sense, in the practical part of it with Laravel. So the first thing we need to do is the same way we make our migration, we're going to make a mail. So we're going to say php artisan make mail, and right here we're going to call it let's just call it welcome mail. Okay, and let's click enter, and this will create a folder called mail for us, and you can see welcome mail right here. Okay, so the first thing we need to do, just like we did for the notification, we need to also define some variables right here. So this will be public, right, and this will be say $user, because we actually want to send this mail to a particular user, right? So let's just go ahead and say this is actually public, not $public. So the next thing we need to do is we need to accept that user. Okay, so let's create this user in the constructor. So this will be $user, and right here let's just go ahead and say this user equal to $user. Okay, now let's just go ahead, let's import this class. So let's just import this class, and the next thing we need to do, you can see this is returning a view, so we're going to talk about that in a bit. So let's just cancel this and let's just build our own. So right here we want to say $this so we want to like send this email to a particular user, right? So we want to say to, and we give the email address of the user we want to send it to. So this will be this $user. Then we go, remember on our user object we have the mail as the property, so we can actually get the email of the user. So the next thing we need to do is we need to define a subject. So this will be subject. Okay, and right here we can say new user. Okay, and the next thing we actually need to do is we need to define the email of person that we're actually sending the email from. So this might be your organization email or probably a primary email. So this will be let's just say no reply at coditme.com.ng. okay, so the next thing we need to do is to actually we can give a name, because this actually accepts an email address and a name. So we can say codit, this is actually a string, and we can say coditme academy. Okay, and the next thing we can now do is we can also give this a name, because this actually accepts, you can see it accepts an email and a name, and by default the name is set to null, which is the same thing with this. By default the name is set to null. We can actually give this a name, so we can say this, you remember on the user object we actually have the name as a property, so we can now give name. Okay, now we need to actually find a view that we can actually build. Okay, so let's now say view. Okay, this will be a view. Now we need to create that view, so this will be emails dot welcome. Okay, remember we don't have a view for this, we're actually going to create this view right now. And right here you can also pass some data, extra data if you want to pass some data. So this can actually be an array, so you can actually define your data. You want to pass some data, but for now the data that we have is okay. So by default, by convention, this user data will be passed to this view. Okay, that means we can actually access the user object right here from our view. Okay, so you can actually define more than one property. Probably you're working on a receipt, then you can pass the receipt object to actually define it right there, just like the way we've defined the user object. Then by default it will be sent to this build view. Okay, so let's just go ahead and create this view right now. So we are by default, by convention, we have email, then we have welcome. So let's just go over to our resource folder, and right here let's create a new folder called emails. Okay, so this will be emails. Okay, and right here within our email we want to have welcome. Okay, so this will be welcome, then blade php. Okay, this actually blade, so let's get the spelling correct please. So this is actually blade php. Now to actually do this, let's just define some basic HTML tag, and this will be welcome, and then we can now go ahead and say $user, and we can go ahead and say name. Okay, so this will say welcome, the name of the user, and we can say email, they say your email is, we can say this user email. So basically this is how everything actually works. Then we can now do a paragraph and say probably we can say code it me academy. Okay, so you can go ahead and apply css styles to this to actually make it look good. So you can have probably you can extend from a template. You can do the normal operation that you used to do on blade template. You can also do it right here. Okay, so let's just stop right here for the views. We already have the views, and the last thing we need to do, probably the second to the last thing, is to actually call this into action. Okay, we actually need to call this into action, and to do this is just the way we did user stuff right here, just the way we did the notification. We're going to do this again. So to do that, we're going to say mail, just the same way we did it. This will be from the folders. Yeah, so we're going to say we're going to send this mail. Okay, so you can see by default, if you don't want to use the mail object, you don't want to create a mail class, you can just do it from this way. You pass your view, this is your view, then you pass your data, then this is a callback for message, then you can manually define all this right here. Okay, mind you can still define all this right here in your mail object. Okay, you can define all those right here. You can define the attachment, the reply to, the cc, the bcc, and you can also do everything right there. Okay, so because we've created an mail object, we're not going to do this anymore. So what we're just going to do is we're going to define a new instance of the object that we just created. Okay, so to do that, you just say mail welcome mail. Okay, and we pass the user right there, and this is all we need to do. So once we create a new user, this is still giving us some kind of an error, and let's see that it's probably a syntax error. So we open this, we actually need to do send right here. Okay, the error is gone now, and this is how you can just send an email from your application. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is to actually configure your application to be able to send email using STMP. Okay, so to do that, go over to your email provider. Probably you might be using a third-party email provider, but for me, I'm using an email provider from my hosting company. So I'm just going to go over to my env file and actually configure this. So I'm going to go over to my env file and configure this. So mailer is going to be STMP, and I'm going to define. You can actually use your Gmail for this. Well, if you want to use your Gmail, so you can just read more on it. So there is a website I also have, so I'm going to use the SMP from the website. So I'm just going to configure this for security purpose, and after doing that I will continue this video. So I'm done configuring the env file, so we can now go ahead and actually test this user out. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do this, and let's just see how it's going to work. Okay, so one thing I need to call your attention to, it won't make sense for you to have your notification like this and actually have your mail on that, but for the essence of this video we're going to have it like this. So in the next video we're just going to be using the mail. We're just going to be using the mail, calling the mail class right here. Then within our mail we're going to be notifying by user too. Okay, so let's just go ahead and see how this is going to work. So let's just test this out. Now I'm going to change the email so we don't have an error with our database. So I'm going to call this sonowap1. I'm going to give this another name. Probably let's just give this Paul at coditme.com. Okay, so let's just go ahead and test this and actually see how it's going to work. So with that, let's have a valid email address. So I'm going to use my email address. So I'm going to say gmail.com. okay, so yeah, we have it right there. So let's just go ahead and run this and actually see how it's going to work in the real sense. Okay, so let's try this now and click enter. So we're not getting any error. That means probably everything is okay. So let me check my Gmail address and actually see if I've received that email. So you can see we've received a new email. So let's click this and see. We've received a new email, and you can see that email right here. You can see everything we've defined, the email, the name. Welcome Paul, your email is Coditme Academy. So basically this is how you send an email from your application. You can create your email class and you can do it, and I've also showed you how to do notifications. So the next part is how to actually notify your user via email. So I'll see you in next video for this, guys.